a special racing edition. The richest showroom stock series in Canada, the Players Challenge East Series, with Chevrolet IROC Z Camaros and Pontiac Trans Am Firebirds competing for $420,000 in prize money. In the Players Challenge Series East, there are 8 races, and this year, for the first time, a Players Challenge West Series as well. In the Eastern Series, an impressive lineup of top drivers.
In car number 1, a Camaro, Richard Spinard. Car number 10, Robin Buck, it's a Firebird. Peter Lockhart in a Camaro, it's car number 11. Lindsay Riddell, his number 22, a Firebird. Ron Fellows, car 43, a Camaro. Another Camaro, car number 66, Mark Doncos. Car number 86, driven by Randy McDonald, a Firebird. And 96, a Camaro, Scott McCall. This is a race series that benefits the consumer. Director of Engineering Ted Robertson explains.
Well, from an engineering standpoint, we learn an awful lot. There's no better place to test a vehicle than in a race series. We go through all of our testing and durability testing at our proving grounds and in Kapuskasing, but it's still not the same as when the driver gets behind the car and pushes it to its limits and even tries to push it beyond its limits. And so from the race series, we find the critical parts of the car and areas in which we can improve much faster than we could by waiting 5 or 10 years while the car is out in the field.
At Toronto's Convention Center, racing fans and a full turnout of the media gathered for the announcement that the Players Challenge Series will move even further into the forefront of Canadian motorsport. Among others, last season's winner, Richard Spinard, was there too. First, the customary warm-up lap. Then the green flag is down, and they're off at Mosport. In the first race of the 1987 Players Challenge Series, the race is on. Long before the tough test of competition on the track, GM Motorsport starts the process on the production line. The engines built at the GM plant in Flint, Michigan on one production run were tested and seals put in place so the teams couldn't tamper with the engines. At the GM plant in Norwood, Ohio, the engines went into 1987 IROC Zs and Trans Ams. Once the cars passed inspection, they went to dealers across Canada. At each dealership, safety equipment and roll bars installed, and the cars were ready to race. The first race of the 87 series looks a bit like the end of the 86 season, with Richard Spinard just too much for the competition. Fellows and Doncos finish tight 2nd and 3rd. Buck, number 10, is 4th. McDonald and Harper, 5th and 6th. And the winner, number 1, Richard Spinard. June 13th, and the setting this time, the second race in the Players Series, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on Montreal's Ile Notre-Dame. And for this race, last year's series winner Richard Spinard is absent. He's at Le Mans, and his car is driven by a relative newcomer, Alain Labrosse. For Willowdale, Ontario's Peter Lockhart, the fastest member of the John Powell team, the day started badly.
I think in qualifying this morning, I tried to teach the Camaro how to take flying lessons. We cleared the guardrail at corner 6 after spinning backwards into the tires. The tires launched the car right up over the guardrail. Very unfortunate because at that point we were qualified 2nd. And now we're desperately trying to find a means to jack the car back in shape and see if we can make the race.
The car couldn't be made roadworthy in time for the afternoon race, and junior team member Tony Corcoran stepped down to let Lockhart drive his car. Undoubtedly a disappointment for Corcoran, but the decision to give Lockhart a chance to drive proved to be a good move. The race is underway, and the cars to watch for, car number 96, Scott McCall. Number 43, Ron Fellows. Robin Buck in car number 10. Peter Lockhart driving car number 11. Mark Doncos, number 66. And driving Richard Spinard's car, 42, Alain Labrosse. On this track, with its sharp turns, conserving the brakes is of prime importance and a true test of driver skill.
The brakes are the toughest part of the car. They really get a hard use in a race. On the F cars here, on some tracks in high temperature conditions, we found that the brakes were fading near the end of the race. And so we've worked with new brake sources and new brake technology, which we are incorporating on production cars now. I want to make sure that people realize that the brakes in these cars are absolutely fine. There's no problem with them for everyday use. But in the race, the racers push them beyond their limits in certain conditions, and so we made some modification for the racers. And those will be reflected in production cars, too.
By the 4th lap, Peter Lockhart is looking like one of the front-runner contenders, not to be lost in the pack. Lockhart driving number 11. That's Robin Buck, number 10, giving Scott McCall a bump on the derriere. We're into the final lap. So race number 2 of the Players Challenge East Series ends with Peter Lockhart in car 11 in first position. Second, Robin Buck. Third, Ron Fellows. And in 4th position, an excellent showing for Alain Labrasse. 5th, Scott McCall. 6th, Ian Phillips. And 7th, Marc Dancos. So far this season, 2 teams dominate the series. The Spinar-David team, Spinar, last year's series winner, and Powell Motorsports. Driving for Powell, Robin Buck, Peter Lockhart, and Marc Dancos.
You can have a great team. If you don't have the talent beyond the wheel, it won't do nothing. Or the opposite, you might have some great team, not a great team, great driver without the support, and if they can't afford to change the tires when they should, well, they don't do very well. Car is basically showroom stock, so you're very, very limited on what you can do in the car. So it's really up to the drivers. Once the car is, you know, ready to roll and you know it's going to finish the race, it's up to you to do the job and drive well.
And away they go to challenge one another and Mosport in race 3 of the Eastern Players Challenge. The view from inside Spinar's car as he moves up from 5th to number 4. Moving ahead of Phillips. In lap 7, now Peter Lockhart, who started 4th, is in the lead. Victor LaRose, number 5, is running 2nd. Now into the 8th lap, Spinar on Robin Buck's tail, pressing. Looking for his chance to pass. And he does, passing on the outside. Richard Spinar moving up the field.
Is him? Yeah.
And Peter Lockhart takes the checkered flag, followed by Richard Spinar, Robin Buck, and Ron Fellows in 4th. A Spinar versus Lockhart race all the way. A success by every measure. The Molson Indy Weekend in Toronto at Exhibition Park. A road race course to challenge drivers in the Indy and in the Players Challenge Series in the Camaros and Firebirds. Nearly 200,000 auto racing fans over 3 days. 60,000 for the Indy run alone. The course along Toronto's Lake Ontario shore and through the streets of the Canadian National Exhibition Park. The director of motorsport for General Motors, Martin Shannonville, brings all the support systems together for the Players Challenge, but his enthusiasm is a big contribution.
The series has been a real success this year. We've got fewer cars running here, 37 as opposed to 74 last year, but virtually all of the really good guys are back, and the level of professionalism, I think, is up quite a bit. As you've seen from your TV clips, the car paint schemes are fantastic this year. The cars look really, really colorful, so we're quite excited about both the appearance and the tightness of the racing. The cars are a little faster this year, and the guys are really putting on a good show.
There are 38 cars on the grid for this one in 19 rows, with Peter Lockhart and Ian Phillips in row 1, Michael Rivet and Robin Buck in row 2. They're off on the first of 15 laps. 7 turns in a smooth pavement street course of 1.78 miles. Peter Lockhart, car 11, leading on the back straightaway. And already the man from Unionville, Ontario, is stretching his lead. He's third in series standing, leading in the money department. These engines are guaranteed by GM. They stand up. Only one returned in all of last year's challenge action. Here's Spinar making a move to pass on the straight, inside. He does it. Whoops, he's going wide, too wide. Maybe the brakes aren't there. That wide turn lost him that pass. Lap 12 in the standing is Spinar, Lockhart, Phillips, Rivet, and Fellows. They're into the final lap for $10 a point. $20,000 for this race today, of a total Players Challenge Series purse of $420,000. Spinar passes the checkered flag and wins his second race of the year. Peter Lockhart, who led much of the race, is second. Phillips of Markham, Ontario, third, and Ron Fellows, fourth.
Well, I'm looking at the championship now from a points point of view. I'd like to win all the races, but I also recognize that sometimes you've got to save the car. At the Molson Indy, I led for most of the race. When Richard Spinard got there, there wasn't much I could do. I had a soft pedal. I might have been able to hold him off, but I might have got the wall. So I settled for second. I needed the points, and I'm watching that point card very carefully.
Well, with the fast 6 in this grade, inverted 91's in the pole. Lloyd Service beside Lloyd. 36, Steve Cosa. 11 is Peter Lockhart. And number 43 moves away to race today, Ron Fellows.
And next we have Richard Spinard and Randy McDonald in row 3, the fastest row on the track today.
Watch this car. Number 10, Robin Buck, is at the wheel.
They have a green flag, Jim.
They're gone.
Down into corner 1.
Look at this. Cosa tries to hang on to this lead on lap 1. Never before has he led an event here, John, but he's got Ron Fellows at his tail.
And he's going to get a lot of pressure now as Ron will try to go hard under brakes here.
And Ron Fellows is now out in front and begins to pull a little bit away from the rest of the field, John. Here come the leaders out of the corner, and...
We have a problem. Back in 2. Raymond David spinning.
Look at this. Ray Coffey got hit from behind. Raymond David off the track. That rear bumper literally almost torn off there, John. At this oval at Cayuga, the race fans are on their feet. We have got a 3-car battle for this checkered flag.
Richard again is looking down the inside.
Can't quite find the room. Robin Buck has an opportunity here to gain about a car length or 2 as the 3 fight it out in front.
Yeah, again, it'll help Robin a little bit, as you said, Jim. These two will be looking in the rear. So, oh, look, Randy down the inside.
Look at this. He's going to attempt that move. He's found it. And look at that little bobble out of Ronnie Fellows. Not usual for us to see that. Can Randy hold on to it here?
I think Randy might have just given him a little tap there just to tell him he's coming through.
Okay, we'll check the paint on the side of his car.
And Fellows gives it right back to him.
Look at this. And Spinard has got him losing out here. He was not able to hang on to Randy well enough to effect a pass himself there, John. Well, our race leaders deal with the last couple of corners now as they come through into that front straight for the flag.
And Randy McDonald has broken up the stranglehold that the Powell and Motormaster teams have had on this series.
Look at that as we wait for the leaderboard, and our race winner is number 86, Randy McDonald. 43, Ron Fellows in second, then Richard Spinard, Robin Buck, Lloyd Service, and Peter Lockhart.
Randy McDonald was later disqualified for inverting his inside wheels, presumably to gain advantage on the turns. This cost him over 100 points. Robin Buck's car, number 1 position in the starting grid for this Players Challenge Series 87 race, the 6th one in the series. Robin Buck, of course, in a key position. The interesting thing is that Richard Spinard managed to end up in number 6 position in the starting grid, as he often does. On his home track, of course, that doesn't deter him one bit. He ran number 1 in those trials, of course, for this race today. The rest of the starting grid would be Lockhart, of course, Fellows, Coffey, Spinard, and Don Coase. Challenge Series race number 6. There are 14 turns to make on this track, over 16 laps. That's 224 turns involving braking and then turning on the horsepower coming out of each one of them. 4th lap, and Buck in his Trans Am doing some impressive, determined driving. McDonald is now 7th. Fellows and Mark Don Coase in an argument on turn 11. In this lap, Fellows bumps Don Coase. Lockhart loses control. At the finish, it's Fellows, Spinard, then Robin Buck in third. Peter Lockhart, after leading all the way, back in fourth. Then Mark Donkos, McDonald, Michael Rive, seventh. Or is that the order? You're going to make a protest over this finish.
I'm afraid so. It's unfortunate that it's gone on this long, and unfortunately, now's the time to do it. That one was kind of violent.
How would you characterize what happened?
Well, I was solidly and unabatedly rear-ended, which obviously spun the car and spun me out of contention.
Lockhart doesn't admit that he did a mistake. He lost control of the car, and because he lost control of the car, that's why we touch. But it's not because I pushed him off that he lost control of the car, and he has to realize that.
After the official protest, a provisional decision, and Ron Fellows is penalized. He apparently bumped Donkos on lap 3. And Spinard also loses $200 in a fine and has 25 seconds lopped off his time, too, for allegedly bumping Lockhart back on lap 6. Mont-Tremblant, Quebec, and race 7. Peter Lockhart brings us up to date on the protests and appeals at Shannonville.
Well, the update on Shannonville is that, of course, both Ron Fellows and Richard Spinard appealed the decisions of the stewards, and that will definitely be heard before the last race of the season at Mosport.
Through this first lap, they find out it's a narrow track, easy to get into trouble. From inside Richard Spinard's car, our camera shows us Lindsay Riddell in trouble, spinning. Spinard stays out of it, but he's forced to fall back, losing 8 places. Now Richard Spinard is moving back up. Car number 1, he takes on Mark Donkos and passes him. Spinard is now running second. On lap 12, that's Peter Lockhart waving Richard Spinard on. So after 7 of the 8 races in the Players Challenge Eastern Series, if the decision of the stewards on race 6 is upheld after Spinard's appeal, Lockhart 24 points ahead of Ron Fellows, and Richard Spinard 47 points off the pace. A rainy day for the 8th and final race in the Players Series held at Mosport on September 20th. Lap 1, and Spinard, in 6th position on the starting grid, starts moving up to take the lead. The Shannonville appeal was lost by Spinard and Fellows, so they both got 25-second penalties for bumping incidents. The time penalties dropped Fellows to 10th place, Spinard to 12th. So, going into this final race, Lockhart has a 24-point lead over Ron Fellows, and if Lockhart finishes 4th or better, he wins the series. No matter which driver or team wins the series this year, the dreams of victory in '88 and the planning are already underway.
Well, we're definitely going to be participating. We think it's an outstanding way for General Motors of Canada to introduce to the race enthusiasts the performance products that we have in the marketplace today. And no better way to be able to do that than to have stock showroom cars racing on the tracks throughout Canada. In the Camaro, IROC, Z-Cars, and the Pontiac Trans Ams are just outstanding values, and to see them perform at the heavy-duty schedule they have to do in this series is indicative of the quality of the product that we have in the market today.
The winner in his Firebird, Robin Buck. Second in this race, Richard Spinard, then teammate Ron Fellows. And fourth, the position he had to hold, Peter Lockhart, the point leader, the winner of the Players Challenge East Series 87. Mark Donkos and Randy McDonald finished race 8, 5th and 6th. The big winner in the series, Lockhart. The big money winner, Spinard, who finished 4th over the season, with Fellows and Buck 2nd and 3rd in the final standings. Donkos and McDonald 5th and 6th, just as they finished in this final race of the 87 Players Challenge Series.
So that's it for the Players Challenge Series of 1987. And a lot of lessons learned about the tracks and about the cars and how to handle them. And the consumer benefits from this too, of course, because these are showroom condition automobiles. The other thing is we're wondering now about the competition next year in those 2 top teams, and about the wild cards, the dark horses. They're already saying, wait till next year. I'm Bruce Rogers for GM Magazine.